So tonight we're going to change it a little bit from the normal teaching that we've been going over. And I want to talk a little bit about selfishness, or just being selfish. And we can actually look at this, as an individual, or we can look at this as a family. But I think it's just really important for all of us to stop our lives and actually see where we're at in our lives. A lot of times we don't even think about being selfish, or that some of the things that we're doing in our lives is selfish. I want to share a little story before we begin this teaching, and this is kind of one of the reasons why it made me actually want to talk about this subject tonight. So a couple of days ago, I was at a place where there was no way to open up a window. And, I'm like everybody else. We all have our lives set. Our schedules are tight. We don't have no time. We're always in a hurry, and we're always rushing. So I went into this place, and the first thing I heard was a big buzz, something flying around the room. So when I got to this place and I got myself set up, I started looking around to find out what this buzz was. And it was a bumblebee, probably about the size of a 50-cent piece. And the first thing that went through my mind was, now I have to stop my whole process. I have to stop everything I'm doing just to deal with this situation. So as I sat there, I kept thinking of how I was going to deal with this situation, especially when the window didn't open. So I'm like everybody else. The first thing I did is I grabbed a big old broom and I swatted this thing. Because I wanted to kill it. I wanted to get rid of it so that I can continue doing what I want to do in my life. I didn't care so much about the life of this bumblebee. I didn't care so much of thinking and planning how I was going to get rid of this situation. The whole thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to kill it. I wanted it out of my way so I can continue on my day, on my morning. And I don't know if you guys can relate to that, because a lot of times, even that little tiny bumblebee puts a little damper in our schedule. We don't want that in our schedule. That wasn't part of our schedule, so to me it became a burden that morning. So I made a couple of notes here, and I said, with the large bumblebee that was giving off this large hum, the only thing I wanted to do was just kill it so I could move on with my day. So then I stopped and I thought about it. I said, what is this bumblebee even doing inside here? This isn't even a place for this bumblebee. So I said, well, I need to get rid of it. The only thing I was thinking of, not about the life of this bumblebee, not about nature, not about God, not about nothing good. All I wanted to do was get rid of it. And if it took killing it, then I was just going to kill it. So what I did is I grabbed a broom and I hit it as hard as I could. And the thing flew across and hit the wall and it fell down. So I said, okay, I'm done. Now I can continue on what I was doing in my life. About 20 seconds later, all you hear is that coming back up. So I stopped and I said, now I just made this thing angry. Now this thing's flying all around the room, and now I'm saying, okay, so now I'm gonna get bit because I just angered this thing. So I started thinking, well, how selfish was I? How selfish was I that I could have done certain other things in order to get it out of the room? So how would you guys have done it? What would you guys have done? Isn't it funny that as human beings, when we have an agenda, when we have a schedule, it really doesn't matter how we get rid of whatever's going on in our life. We just want to get rid of it, no? That goes through family members' problems, that goes through marital problems, that goes through business problems, that goes through bills, whatever it might be in our life. A lot of times we're so selfish with our own time that we don't stop and just reason things out, no? We don't stop and say, well, what's the best plan of action? How should I approach this situation? What should I do? So after this thing is flying around and going berserk in the room because now it's angry with me, I said, well, now I'm in trouble, no? So just because I didn't take no time and be patient with it, now I have to deal with this whole situation. So it really made me start thinking, because at this particular time I was actually also going through a family situation where I didn't want to deal with the family situation. I didn't want to be part of the problem or part of the solution trying to figure it out, because I have my own things to do. No? I have my own family, I got my own kids, I got situations that I'm going through in life. I really didn't want to have no part of it. So that's the reason why I wanted to go over this teaching tonight, or this talk tonight, so that maybe if you guys are feeling the same way or going through the same situation in your lives, then maybe we can do something or figure out something that's a better plan. No? You know, I kept, and I'm thinking about this as I'm going through it, and I told myself, stop. Just stop and think about how you're going to address this situation with this bumblebee flying around inside this room. So I said, what would a patient person do in a situation like this? Well, you know, the impatient person was going to kill it, right? So how would the patient person stop and try and deal with this bumblebee to get it out of this room? It wasn't easy because the windows weren't open. There's only one door in and one door out. So I said, you know, what would a patient person do in order to take care of the situation? So what I did was I just let it be. You know? I let the bee come down and just kind of calm down. So at the same time, it gave me an opportunity to try and think through it. So I'll ask you guys again, how would you have gotten this bumblebee out of this small room where there was no window open up, only indoor and outdoor, without killing it? What would you guys' thoughts be? Remember, he had just got swatted by a broom. He's very, very upset now.
Just get that broom and just hold it down gently, because obviously it didn't kill it. And then just get a cup and paper, broom, whatever.
Do that again? Yeah.
I thought.
Anybody else?
I did.
Just leave it in the room, leave the bumblebee in the room.
Leave him there, leave him in the room.
That's what I would do. Mariah said light the house on fire.
I would have chased it out.
So about 15 minutes later, what I did is, every time that he landed and he stopped, I went toward him with the broom and I just kept making him fly, fly, and fly, until this guy was actually almost rolling on the floor. He couldn't fly no more. He was so tired that after he couldn't go anymore, he would just sit there. I did exactly what Johnny says. I put a cup over it, and I put a piece of paper and I slit it, and I took it and I let it go outside. And even when I let it go outside, the bumblebee couldn't go anywhere because he was so tired. No? So I just thought I'd bring that up, because if you stop and think about it, all of our lives, a lot of us are really selfish with our time, you know. We're selfish with our time, we're selfish with our energy, we're selfish with a lot of stuff, and we never even think about it. We're so busy in our lives that if something comes into our path, we're always just trying to get rid of it, no? If a family member calls, you're like, what does this family member want? What, you know, let me call you back later, or I'll talk to you later about this situation, or let's deal with it later on. Or if a person invites us to go to church, you know, at a different time, how many of you guys have a particular time that you go to Mass at? So if a person says, hey, you want to go Mass at a different time, what's your response?
Sure.
That's positive. Anybody else besides sure?
As long as we get breakfast somewhere.
Breakfast is always good, huh? And a lot of times we say no, because we already have an appointed time that we go, no? We already have plans, so after Mass, we go to breakfast or whatever. We have our own schedules, no? So tonight's teaching or topic is just about selfishness. No? And any time that you guys want to interrupt or add or make a comment regarding that, I think it's something for all of us to open up our minds to, because we're always in a hurry. We're always about our time. We're always about our places. And that even comes to our own children. You know, as I experienced this situation a couple of days ago, I actually had an opportunity 2 nights following after that to really reflect on myself to see, well, do I really spend a lot of time with my kids or not? Do I really spend a lot of time with my wife or not? Do I spend a lot of time with family members? You know, a lot of us might still have our parents, might not have our parents. How much time do we spend talking to our parents anymore? How much time do we spend with our brothers or our sisters or just anybody in life that normally we don't have the time for? Because do you guys, when you guys reflect on the life of Jesus Christ, do any of you guys believe Jesus Christ was selfish with anything that He gave to us? He gave us everything, including dying on the cross for each and every one of us. No, He wasn't selfish regarding anything. You know, he even with the apostles, He really was very patient with them. No, He was very patient with humanity. He was very patient with mankind. No, if they didn't understand something, if they didn't follow through with something, He didn't just give up on them. No, He didn't give up on them. He actually took that extra time, that extra energy to explain or to do something. No? So in Scripture and outside of Scripture, there's nowhere that we can ever read or ever say that Jesus Christ was ever selfish toward me and you. No? But flip that on the other side. Are we selfish with our time and our energy toward Jesus Christ? How many of us can raise our hands to that and say, you know, I am selfish. I don't give Jesus Christ all the time, all the energy that I should be giving to Him. You know, and it's something of an eye-opener that we should all reflect on. And we know that God understands us. We know that God is patient with us. But what about other people in our lives? What about family members? What about, you know, family members going through a bad situation in life? How many of us would actually stop our lives, you know, tell our spouse or our family members, you know what, I need some time with this particular family member because this person is going through some hard times. How many of us would do that for a family member? How many of us would do that for our child? How many of us would do that for even a friend? You know, or our parents. I mean, anything like that. You know, our lives are going too fast, you guys. If you guys look in the mirror, our lives are just going too fast, but it's because of us. We're causing that. Nobody else is causing that. So it would be a great blessing for each and every one of us to stop and think those areas that we're really selfish in. You know, what can we do to make our lives more open so that we would not be that selfish, you know? And I stand up here, this is the whole reason why I'm going over this is because I feel that I'm extremely selfish. You know, in my life, Paul is so busy doing everything else that it's hard for me to stop what I'm doing and to give love to a family member. It's hard for me to stop what I'm doing to help out a family member or even a friend. Because my days, well, what I lead myself to believe is that I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. So as I sat down and I went over this teaching, I actually went through Scripture to find out if selfishness was actually in the Scriptures and if it was something that we can share tonight. So I'm going to share just a couple of scriptures with you guys regarding it, but before I do that, I have a couple of notes here and I put, God has never asked any of us for anything. God died for us, and even when He was dying, He still didn't ask us for anything. All He ever wanted was for us to love Him, to honor Him, and to worship Him. Now, I put over here also, has the church ever been selfish to any of you guys?
No.
The church as a whole, ever been selfish to any of you guys? not an individual in the church, but the church as a whole. And I myself could never think about it. I said, you know, as I went to Mass on Sunday, I said, someone's always here. The doors are always open. Someone always turns on the heat. Someone always turns on the air conditioner. Someone always has the holy water set up. Somebody always has the plants watered, parking lot clean, and so on and so forth. No? So I said, well, the church isn't even selfish. You know, but yet I keep reflecting back on me, and I kept thinking to myself, but you're selfish. I kept telling myself over and over and over, but you're selfish, you're selfish. I said, but I do, you know, I put out a little time here and I put out, but in reality, overall, in my personal life and in my spiritual life and in my physical life, I can honestly say that I'm pretty selfish, no? So that's what made me open up to this teaching. So one of the first things that I had to do is I had to start admitting on how selfish I was. So then I started looking back at history, and I started looking how selfish mankind has been. Remember that if we go all the way back to Adam and Eve, do you think that they were selfish by eating that fruit off the tree?
Yeah.
They were selfish, no? Why? They were thinking about themselves, no? What was good for them? You know, we know the story where Eve, you know, God tells Adam and Eve, don't do it, don't touch it. You can have anything you want from anywhere in the garden, just don't touch the tree. And Eve and Adam saw how pleasing it was to the eye, and they had to have it, no? So through their selfishness, all mankind had been introduced to sin, no? So selfishness is a really strong thing that we should really look into, because by the selfishness of our first parents, Adam and Eve, all the promises changed because of their selfishness. Then I look back onto mankind. How many of you guys know the story of Martin Luther? So even Martin Luther was selfish. You know, Martin Luther was a monk. He was a Catholic monk, and there was a lot of things that he didn't agree with. So by him not agreeing with Scripture or the church decisions, he started protesting and saying, you know what, I don't believe that these other books should be in the Bible, so let's take them out. So by his selfishness, Christianity started dividing. That was back in the year 1525, 1526. So instead of Christianity being a whole, like Jesus Christ always wanted it, through his selfishness, he created a big division in Christianity. And we're not going to go over what he did or didn't do, but just by this man's selfishness, Christianity has been hurt. You know, divisions have been made, churches have been broken apart, families have been broken apart, children have lost parents or godparents, all because of man's selfishness. No? That's how powerful just even the name selfishness means. So if we look at it, what about us? What about our selfishness? How can it affect another person's life or even our own lives by us being selfish? No? Is there anything that any one of you want to share in this room regarding you being selfish about something, and if it in fact affected somebody else in your lives? With the room being this quiet, that means no one's selfish in here, right?
Well, last weekend, we kind of had our weekend planned, or Saturday planned. And when you work and the kids are involved and stuff, your time is limited. So anyways, I have two little nieces that are half Native American, and they were supposed to, they had their feast day and they were going to dance for the first time. But they've been saying this for like 9 years, and they get scared and they don't dance. So my sister called us like the day before, and she was like, "Oh, everybody, you know, they're good. The girls are gonna dance. Please join us." And I was like, I told Mariah, you know, well, yeah, fun. we have stuff to do, and I don't think we're gonna go because we always go, and then they end up not dancing, and anyways. So woke up, we started to do what we had to do, and that I was being selfish. And then so come like the afternoon, they did line up dancing in the morning, and felt totally guilty. So then they had 2 more dances, and we headed down there and we caught them. But anyways, that was, I thought, well, I have to be there for them. But I felt very selfish.
It's amazing that we don't really realize how our selfishness can affect another person. I look back, I had a cousin, her name was Marisol, and she passed away, I can't remember how many years ago, 5, 6 years ago, no? About 5 or 6 years ago she passed away. Anyway, when I was thinking about this teaching, I still remember to this day that I drove up, it was actually after Bible study, I drove up Barker Street and she was putting gas at the gas station on top of Barker Street. And when I drove up, I saw her walking to the store, so I waited for her to walk in, pay for her gas, pump her gas and leave, and then I jumped out to put gas just because I didn't want to talk to her, no? And I think 3 days later she passed away, no? So by my selfishness, by my pride, by my whatever it was that I was going through, that I didn't want to even say hi or anything, maybe I could have changed, that situation. Maybe I could have done something different, but through my selfishness of my time or whatever it was that time, I didn't have the opportunity that I should have, no? So just stopping and reflecting and going on about this selfishness, just like this testimony was just said, that we want to do it, but a lot of times we always blame the other person, no? Well, we would have went to the dances before, but they're always not doing the dance. They're always copping out of the dance. So we try and justify it in a way that pleases us, no? Any other thoughts in the room?
Yeah, my story is a big kind of unique story. Normally I don't know about it, maybe I do know some, but we had some really bad month. Hell came to my house, and that is no lie, you can ask my sister. And I have a grandson that is 22 years old, and his parents left 3 years ago to Houston, and then first to Phoenix and then to Houston. And so he stayed, had a great job. 18 years old, started off with a $62,000 a year job. And that is no lie. 18 years old, right off of high school. Got involved with his first girlfriend, got into the drug scene, which I had no idea how bad it was here in Santa Fe. I've heard about Espanola, Chimayo. Well, it's bad. It's very, very bad. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that we would have to deal with a situation like that. And with that said, a lot of things changed in my house, not just between my husband and myself. He couldn't deal with what was going on. We had him living in a house that we have on the same property. Him and the girlfriend trashed it, literally trashed it. And we probably should have checked up on him, and never checked up on him this whole time. But where I'm going with this is, one night I came close to just packing up my stuff and saying, that's it, I'm out of here. I can't deal with what's going on in my house, and then with my grandson and my son worried about what's going on over here. And I came close to, my daughter called me at 2 o'clock in the morning. She says, are you ready? My husband and I will go pick you up. And I came close, but I realized that that would have been selfish, because first of all, I would have changed a lot of things, not just what was going on with my grandson, but the relationship between my husband and his grandchildren, which he adores. and he spends a lot of times with his granddaughters on my daughter's side. And my grandson is my first grandson, and I mean, he is my heart. And
He lives with you guys. You forgot to tell me that was
Well,
selfishly.
okay.
He moved in with you
We
guys.
had to, first of all, my husband was so pissed off, and he was hitting that bottle pretty good. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was nasty. That house was a mess. And he threw them out. He literally threw them out, but not in a very nice way. That's why I said the devil came to my house, and that is no lie. I am not lying about that. It was the most awful experience I've ever had. But with that said, my grandson was out on the street. He went from having 3 vehicles. He had bought himself with his first, he worked for about 6 months with that job. His first bonus was $12,000. Bought himself a Corvette. Had a well, my husband sold him his truck, 1993 truck, had a Jeep. And to this day, and this happened on Tuesday, he totaled the Jeep. He has no Corvette. He lost the truck because he totaled that also. But I decided I couldn't do it. I told my daughter, I just can't. I knew that if I did that, it was going to change a lot of things. And so that would have been selfish on my part. But I am glad I stayed because my husband forgave my grandson. He was out on the street. He was sleeping in a tent. And my son called, and he was very, very upset. And he says, I don't know what to do. I'm way out here. I can't just leave my job. And if I could, I would. My son is a very spiritual man. He is, you can ask me. He's had a lot of experiences that right now I can't share, but there's a lot of things going on with my son, spiritually, and has been for, probably about 10, 15 years. And he said, Mom, I pray to God and I asked him, if you want me to leave, I'll leave now. Or do you want me to leave and take care of my situation with my son and spend the rest of my life sharing, doing something for God? He said, I asked God if that's what he wanted of me, and he says, and I'm still here. And just a while ago, I was showing me a little text that my son sent me, and he said, Mom, he says, I'm having those experiences again, and I know now why I'm here, why I'm in Houston. He says, I know that I'm here. I had an experience last night, and I have an answer. Is that I'm here because I can't be in Santa Fe. If I was in Santa Fe right now, he says, I would have done something very bad. And that's what he was told, that he's there, he can't be here. Because we know some of these, we found out some of these drug dealers, who they are. And so I stayed, and my grandson is now living with us. And not just him, his girlfriend. And I mean, my daughter-in-law, she told me, I don't want her in my house, and she can't come here. And her family is all into the drug scene. But she lost her mother when she was a very little girl. And pretty much her family has kind of just, the father can't deal with all that's going on with his other 2 kids. One of them is on the methadone program, and anyway, he doesn't want her there. So we took them in, we took them both in, and believe me, if any of you have ever experienced being around, which we don't, I mean, I had no clue. I was oblivious to what the heck is going on in this town alone with the drugs. And we took them in, and we took her in. And she's done some really stupid things, like my son was texting me and my daughter-in-law about how angry they were with this young girl, because now their son is in, but come on, you don't twist a 22-year-old arm to do drugs. But my son also told me, he says, Mom, her mother is gone, and maybe she's in our lives so that we can help her. Maybe we can help. And so we've taken her in, and she went through my text. I left my phone out, and she went through everything that was said between my son and myself, my daughter-in-law and myself. And a lot of it was not so nice, because they were angry, and I was angry. In fact, when I say the devil came to my house, not just with my husband, but I realized also with me, because the other day he said, oh, I owe so-and-so. He says I still owe him a G. I haven't even heard that word in a long time, a G, for fixing his Jeep, which he didn't do anything to it. And my grandson said, I don't think he did anything to my car. It dawned on me, he's probably not talking about doing work on his Jeep. He probably owes him that in drug money.
Well, that's, the thing is that we just have to remember that as we continue and we go forward on our lives, endurance, no? That's what we're all going to have is that endurance. From your story, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, because a lot of us, have been there, going through it, or might go through in the future. But the thing is that if later on, if we have the time tonight, one of the things that I said as I was going over this teaching is that we have to look at ourselves first, no? We have to look in the mirror and see where we're at. And if we are those selfish people, if we are going through those trials and tribulations in our lives, we kind of have to work with ourselves before we can actually fix somebody else's life, see? And that's what I want all of us to focus on, is that ourselves. And look at ourselves first, because even Jesus Christ says, how can you tell your brother, let me take that splinter out of your eye when you have that wooden beam in your own eye? So Jesus Christ has already told us, he's already instructed us, he already knows that we, again, by that selfishness, we're always looking to someone